It's a true honor to be with you guys this morning. Thank you so much for the invitation. To give a refresher, how many of you guys have met me? Okay, 50-50. So I came to Atlanta in 1995 to be Clark Howard's producer. I was an investigative reporter in Nashville, Tennessee, and I got to the point where I was tired of the car wrecks, the house fires, and the drug shootings. I just told people how rotten the world was every night. I'm like, I don't really believe the world's rotten. I saw this ad in Broadcasting Magazine, a real magazine, and it said, top consumer unit in the Southeast looking for a producer to make us even better. So I applied for the job, got the job. It was an off-air job. I moved to Atlanta, moved my family to Atlanta, and all I wanted to do was figure out a way to help people every day, because that's my center, that's where I come from. And Clark was fantastic. Clark is everything that he's advertised to be. He's the most unaffected, famous person I've ever been around. If you run into him at Burger King, he's going to talk your ear off, right? So for 3 years together, we worked together every day. And I fulfilled my dream. I got to help people every day. But a funny thing happened if you're an investigative reporter and Clark is syndicated across the nation. The management came to me one day and said, okay, Delta's done a stock split, we need Clark on at 6. And I'm like, he's not here. Where is he? He's in Florida. Okay, you do it. And so slowly but surely, I started doing a lot more on-air reporting because Clark was not available. And a funny thing happens when you go on air doing consumer stories. People that are sitting at home that know things that ought not to be going on, and they see somebody they trust, they'll call you and say, can I tell you what's going on? I don't want you to tell people I'm the one that told you, but I'm the one that told you, right? And so I started doing those kinds of stories, and slowly but surely I got sucked back into how rotten the world was. I did a story that led to Bill Campbell being convicted for tax evasion. I did a story that led to Linda Shrinko being convicted for misuse of funds as the state school superintendent. Did a story that led to the DeKalb County Sheriff Sidney Dorsey losing the election and then turning around and murdering his rival, Derwin Brown. Did a story that had Jackie Barrett removed from office. Pretty soon I'm back doing stories about how rotten the world is. And I thought, don't want to really do this anymore. But I noticed something in all those years. Every time I said, Mary's been taken, she gave this guy $10,000, he took off, the police are trying to find him, don't let this happen to you, Dale Cardwell, Channel 2 Action News. I realized, wait a second, these people are just making the same 7 mistakes over and over again. They're hiring somebody that's telling them a story that's too good to be true. They're hiring someone without checking their references. They're hiring someone without really understanding how to tell the difference between real and fake online reviews. They're hiring somebody that doesn't carry liability or workers' comp insurance. They're hiring somebody that does not have a findable office, right? They're hiring somebody without doing any kind of a rough background check to see if they are in small claims court all the time. And finally, they're hiring somebody that's offered a guarantee and they've never really read it and realized that when something goes wrong, there's an exclusion, right? So I said, I can reverse engineer those 7 things. I can do those in advance of you making a purchase, and I can eliminate 99% of the things that could go wrong. But there's a key to success for that. And Chris and I sat down more than 10 years ago, and I said, Chris, here's the thing. I think you're delivering excellence, but there's one thing I need to ask of you that's a pretty tall order. What's that, Dale? He says, I want you to sign an agreement with me that says that if someone feels as though they've been harmed or haven't gotten what they've been promised in their written agreement, I want you to put me in charge of making it right. And a funny thing happens. When I started 16 years ago, I'd sit down with owners, and about half of them would listen to me and say, well, I kind of see how that could work, but wait a second, my daddy started this company. I'm not going to put anybody in charge of my customer service. And then you had people like Chris that said, well, wait a second, we're already doing it right. And we're frustrated because there's people out there telling them that they're going to do it right, and they don't, and that's who I'm competing against. And so you're telling me that's the only thing I have to do? So, you know, Dale, with us, you're going to be the Maytag repairman. And that's exactly how it worked out. And so it's a wonderful opportunity to create trust between the consumer that you're talking to and the business that you represent. And as Chris said and alluded to, we took a listen to a lot of our phone calls, and we've got more than 180 companies that we work with, so we can listen to a lot of phone calls. More than 50% of the people that call in say, I'm calling you from the Trustdale book. I'm calling you because of Trustdale.com. And what we've realized is that they're telegraphing ahead of time, I'm gonna hire you. I'm not price checking. You know, I'm not trying to get more information. I'm here to make an appointment. I'm not here to just, gather information. And we believe that that's a real difference for you guys in the field. We have some companies that they don't go out on a call. They telegraph. They send a short video saying, hey, we're going to be there Tuesday morning at 9, but in the meantime, watch this video that hopefully will give you a peace of mind that we're the right choice to make. And so that's the way the relationship works. And, and the beauty of it is it's transparent. I want to share something with you guys that's real world. So, Chris, you've probably done half dozen jobs or more at my house.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is, I'm going to pass these around, but this is an overhang that is over the basement door of my house, and my wife designed this along with Trusted Toolbox. I can't tell you how big of a deal this was to her. And so recently we had some remodeling done, and the people did not mean harm, but this is the way it was put back on the house. So it went from normal to dwarf house, right? And so I called up Chris and I said, Mama is not happy. And so, what can we do about this? And within, 3 days we had a plan. Within a week we had a resolution. And this is it today. And guess what? Mama's happy, right? So I'm here to tell you that I love working with you guys because you represent the best of the best. You do great work. You tell people when you're going to be there. You arrive on time. You do the job that you've been asked to do to an excellent standard, and then you clean up and you leave. And that's probably the best thing you can do as for word of mouth for Trusted Toolboxes, because those people tell their neighbors. Marnie wanted me to mention that I have written a new book. The original book was Don't Get Scammed, Get Smart, 7 Simple Steps to Become a Savvy Consumer. I realized about 6 months ago, wait a second, everything has changed because of COVID. All of these scams, they haven't gone away, they've just morphed to the internet. And it's so easy to be taken. So I thought, I really need to update this. And so it's Don't Get Scammed, Get Smart, 7 Steps to Outsmart Today's Most Dangerous Post-COVID Scams. And when you guys are in the customer's home, I encourage you to tell them that we know each other, that we've met, right? And our Jackie Lord, our customer care manager, is excellent. And we can resolve a problem on an average within 3 days. Now that's some that take a while, right? But the beauty is we're not going to mediation, we're not going to arbitration, we're just making people happy. So again, I want to tell you how much of an honor it is to be in front of you today, how much I appreciate you using my name and representing me and Trustdale.com. And if you guys have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Clapping is not mandatory.
Well, and I think one of the things, and this is why I pass these out, especially for when you're dealing with consumers, is to continue to use him as a closing tool. This is something that other people cannot offer your clients. They can't offer that they're going to get a $10,000 insurance policy that say, hey, if something goes wrong, he's going to help work it out. And so this is really a great closing tool if you're at this sticking point with them and say, okay, don't take our word for it that we're going to do a great job. Here's Dale. He's backing us up. And he's backing it up with real money because we really do this. We don't love to do it, but we're going to do it. And that's the key part
Well,
of
that's
it.
the question. So people ask, does he really make it right? Has he really shelved out?
Yeah, so I'll give you a couple of statistics. In 16 years, we have generated $2.6 billion in commerce in Atlanta through the website and the Certified Services Guide. Our completion to complaint ratio is 99.7%. So 99.7% of the leads that have resulted in appointments and jobs, only 0.3% of those people come back and say, this didn't work out exactly the way we planned. Of those 600,000 jobs, I have had to pay out the Make It Right guarantee 8 times. So, it's $80,000. But I've also sent out more than $250,000 of $50 gift certificates, things like that. They said, oh, they didn't show up on time, they were 30 minutes late. I'm sorry about that. Hey, here's a gift certificate to make it a little better, because it's all about that relationship. And when somebody gets that acknowledgement and they're like, wow, they really do care. And things are going to happen. You're going to get stuck in traffic going north on 85. Right? Who would know? Who would know? But just a little bit of human compassion it goes a long way. And and the other thing that you guys are so good at is that you wow people. When you guys did my overhang, you cleaned up and you made it look great. You painted it, and it just went back. And like I said, we're going through a very lengthy remodel process, and just that little piece of human decency and excellence, saved my marriage. Any more questions?
Let's see those pictures.
Sure.
Lagunda did the job. So the background was originally, when we put it up, it was Raul and Elite, and we did design that. We got the timbers out of Lilburn. They moved it down, so Lagunda, I went out there and worked with them to figure out how to change the pitch. It seems simple, it really wasn't, by the way. But it came from, Dale had emailed me, and I didn't get back to him, but he called into the office, and he immediately got on me and said, hey, you gotta get out there. And I went, oh, yep. And so I went out that week, and we got it figured out.
Yeah, the reason it was complicated is because we broke out the back wall of one of our bedrooms to make a much larger master. And so when they evened that out, all of a sudden we realized, wait a second, we've got 2 odd-shaped windows. So we needed to make the windows the same length, which meant that the overhang had to come down, but not as far as remodelers had brought it down to Dwarf House. And so Chris came out and said, okay, it can go back up a bit, but you're gonna have to change the pitch. And it's just going to change the aesthetic, and it will look right. And that's what we did.
Dale, talk to everybody about the becoming a member of Trustdale, and then exactly how the $10,000 warranty works.
So when I started this, the reason I started is I was watching TV one day, and I saw a Scana commercial come on. And the lady's dancing in her kitchen. I just saved $150 on my natural gas bill, and her kids are at her feet. And, they were shoving that commercial down our throats this time of year. So on the upteenth time I watched it, I froze the screen, and I blew it up, and I read the mice type. And it says you have to repeat your Scana variable rate for 2 consecutive years to qualify for the $150 rebate, which means you're going to have spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars more for natural gas than you should have. And I thought, that's not right. There needs to be somebody telling people the truth about how you find the best opportunity, right? How do you get the best relationship? And so that's why I started what I did. And, the Make It Right guarantee, if you do not get what you were promised in your written agreement, then I invite you to contact me. Now, if you've contacted Trusted Toolbox through the Certified Services Guide or the website, you're already registered for the Make It Right guarantee. That's why it's so easy. Another big difference is we don't require people's personal information. I think as we've all learned through Thumbtack and through Angie, they're data mining platforms. All they want to know is figure out who you are, how much you make, where you live, how many kids you have, so they can sell that. We don't require that, but you get that registration. If you guys close a deal in somebody's home and they're getting 2 or 3 estimates and use us as the tiebreaker, I suggest you use your phone or you use an iPad and say, can I register you right now for the $10,000 free Make It Right guarantee? It's a conversion tool that really works. And, you know, and we can see how many of our companies are doing that aggressively in the field because we know how many leads we're generating with them. We see how many register your purchase comes back that didn't have anything to do with our lead generation, right?
And we've also, like I brought a bunch of these, and they can just register their purchase by doing a QR code right there. So this is something that you can give them.
Absolutely.
And all we're asking for to register is your name and your phone number, right? Just so that we can prove you really did use our recommendation to choose the vendor. That's how easy it is.
Even if they didn't use the recommendation, even if they called you from one of your other lead sources, but you bring this in, and they can still register their purchase. You know, they can do that even if they didn't do that. You know, it's all about saying, hey, we've got this added, you know, benefit if you go with us.
And I have paid out the Make It Right guarantee on someone that registered their purchase but did not find the company through Trustdale. Yes, ma'am.
So it does say 365 days from the purchase. So that's after. They normally words are very hard today. They normally pay at completion. So it would start at completion
It starts at signing contract or turning over of funds within 48 hours. That's when your 365-day window begins. Because I've learned through experience that most things go wrong within a year. If the job has lasted a year, I've had a few that companies that have offered lifetime warranties, but I've been very, very careful at choosing those companies. And speaking of which, when I started, the other thing I noticed was, y'all remember kudzu.com?
Yep.
Okay, it was a Cox product. I worked for Cox for a long time. There's only 4 people that make money at Channel 2 or any TV station. Main female anchor, main male anchor, sports guy, and weather guy. And now it's the consumer guy and the weather guy, right? Everybody else just hopes to make money one day. Well, when Cox started Kudzu, they did the same thing. We're not going to put a personality to that. We're not going to associate a personality. We're going to call it the most hated vine in the South, which I thought, well, why are you doing that? And then they accepted everybody. They had 30, 50, they took as many plumbers in a category as would sign up. They'd take money from anybody that would fog a mirror. And I thought, that's not the way to do it. Let's only qualify 3 to 5 companies in a category. Let's give people a handful of options, show them a video, let them meet the owner, get a feel for who they feel comfortable with. And I mean, I tell you, I've been criticized a lot for this. I have roofers calling me every week saying, are you telling me there's only 5 decent roofers in Atlanta? No, I'm telling you there's 5 that I'm willing to give you your money back if something goes wrong, because I can't let it get out of control. And venture capital that's come to me and said, hey, you know, we could really take this big, but they all want me to open it up. And I think that destroys the secret sauce. Yeah, so that's why I keep it to 3 to 5. And it's generally 3 to 5 based on zip codes. Because what I realized is that one of my fundamental plumbers didn't want to go to Monroe. And I could hear the phone call. And they'd say, yeah, we can come to you, but it's going to take 2 weeks. Well, you need a plumber tomorrow or today. You can't wait 2 weeks. So I thought, okay, I'm going to certify a plumber over here on the east side of Atlanta that's going to get to you today or tomorrow. So that's kind of the way it works.
And we've also seen the evolution of Trustdale and how the neighborhoods have changed and how it's growing. You know, the last time I was here with Chris, we were talking about the Athens market and how that is exploding with the Coney and all the neighboring communities around there. So that is something that we're looking at, is expanding Trustdale more to those areas that are growing and that need trusted services and stuff.
What are some of the other criticisms or objections that you have?
That is pay to play. You know, and the way that I respond to that for a long time, I'm like, well, here's the deal. You're not paying a penny for following my recommendation, and these companies really must meet a transparent 7-point standard. So tell me the harm in that, because I see it, and Chris and I have had many conversations about this. It's a marketing co-op. You know, I had a guy one time that he was a tree service, and you know, and he was asking me about the other 2 companies in the tree category, and I was telling him how I qualified them and why I wanted them on the site. And I said, does that bother you? And he says, no. He said, you're eliminating 99% of the riffraff that I'm competing against. If I don't have the fortitude to compete against 2 or 4 other companies that have the same price points as me, have workers' comp and liability insurance, then I'm not in the right business. There's tons of business to go around for qualified companies that do it right. And if we can eliminate the ones that don't do it right, or the ones that are too proud to agree to a make it right guarantee, then we're doing the right thing.
And you're one of our ideal companies because you do utilize all the tools. You have, I don't know if you know this, that you have a reciprocal link. So you have a link on your website that links back to our website. And as he was saying, and he's very modest about, he's, you know, the #1 consumer investigator in Atlanta, the most known. That gives him a lot of what we call Google juice. And the Google juice that he is creating, because he's been around a while and he has been generating this. And actually they see our website, the Trustdale website, not as a commerce site. They see it as a information site, like an educational. So we get higher ranking. So by you being associated in this unseen reciprocal link, you are getting higher ranking when it comes to the whole Google universe and stuff.
And we're all having to navigate that, but right now, if somebody says handyman near me, that means that Trusted Toolbox shows up higher organically, because Google's like, well, this website that has all these links to all these great companies in Atlanta are all pointing back to this website. And so I guess we need to rank the Trusted Toolbox higher too, because it's clearly a pretty exclusive club.
Good.
We good?
All right, yeah. I'll just say a couple more things, and then we'll let Dale go. So you said how many make it right guarantees did you pay out the 10,000?
8.
You know how many you paid 2 to? These guys. We did 2 bathrooms. So here's the testimonial. Does he actually really pay? He really did. He actually paid us 20 grand, 10 grand for one bathroom and 10 grand for another bathroom that somebody had done incorrectly.
That's right.
There were 2 leaking showers, and so we did the work and got the work done, and the customers were happy. How often do we come behind people who don't do things the right way? And in this case, because of the $10,000 make it right guarantee, the problem we run into, because we're running into one right now, contractor left them high and dry, they've lost 50% of their money, and now we come back and give them 100% of the bid, and they're like, well, that's too expensive. The $10,000 went, okay, well, that makes it more palatable, now we'll do the job. So it did work. The other thing I will bring up is that, I know we use it all the time, you know, he actually secret shopped us. When I first started 17 years ago, a year into it, a guy named Buddy Wofford, who many of you guys know, said, hey, you need to look at Trustdale. I said, oh, I've heard about that guy. I'm like, And next thing I know, I got a call saying, I'd like to talk to Chris, and it was Dale. I'm like, he goes, hey, this is Dale Cardwell. I'm like, yeah. He goes, hey, we just used your services at the house. Yeah. He goes, my wife is thrilled. I'm like, yes, of course. So that he did. He secret shopped us, real deal, came to the office, made sure we actually had an office. This is back when we were at Berkeley Lake. Did look at the COIs. Every year we have to give them our certificates of insurance. What makes us stronger out there is that we have done the Make It Right guarantees. I have been out to look at jobs and say, Chris, no harm, no foul, can you just look at this job? Just tell me what you think. He goes, I'm not gonna hold you to it, and I have gone out there to help him with that as well. So there's a big differentiation. The other one I will tell you on this one is this. You probably have heard this. You know what, I've had a bad experience with one of those Trustdale guys. Why should I trust you? And I think one of the things you say is, did you let him know? And a lot of times well, nah, I don't trust that guy. And so we know that, but you know, did you let him know? Because we know that we've worked with companies that come behind those people. So whenever that happens, it's not a backfire, it's actually a go-get. And I think you can go get it with, well, did you let him know? Because we know that we've come behind some of these guys and guess what? They're no longer on his website. Guess what? They're no longer allowed to be with him. And so he does stand behind his word on that thing. That changes some people's opinion. Again, when you're that popular, you better have some haters. Because if you don't, just like us, we got plenty of them, you know, people go, that Trusted Toolbox, I can't trust them. It's just because we've been around for 17 years.
And I'll tell you a story. In the height of the pandemic, we had a young lady that was having to educate her kids at home on iPads and phones because they couldn't go to school, nobody was going to school. AT&T came out and did a terrible job connecting her internet and blew out the side of the house.
Yeah.
I remember that job.
And Chris and Trusted Toolbox were the ones that came to the rescue at no expense to her. And, you know, Chris doesn't tell that story, but I mean, he does, you guys do come behind a good bit of our companies, but that was one time you came behind somebody that had nothing to do with us and didn't ask for anything in return.
That was.
That
yeah,
was
that's
Lagunda
right,
that did that job as well.
That's the one where she didn't, she didn't have the money. Yeah, we just did it.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's one of the things, he didn't ask, he just said, it's up to you, but if you could, and we did, you know. So,
Yep.
well, thanks Dale for coming in, I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
I wanted you guys all to get a chance, I know we gotta break up and get going, because we got some other stuff we gotta do, and we gotta, you going too, so.
Okay.
We get to fight traffic.
Take
Thank
us
you for
back.
coming.
Yeah.
Pictures are right
Oh,
there.
yeah, that's my show and tell. Thank you.
Yeah, I love it, yeah, show everybody else that.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks, Dale.
All right, get back to work.
Is he left yet?
All right.